Hello, and it's another beautiful day, and here am I this morning in your face again to see how we can add value to ourselves again. Irrespective of whatever it is that you do, it's important for you to know that um, that immediacy does not mean expediency. That is to say, whether now or later, there's going to be an effect of whatever it is that we do in the present moment. And what is it that I'd like to share with you today? And by the end of this video, you should be able to sit down and think through whatever it is that you want to do. You need to make a decision, you need to sign up a deal, you need to blueprint a particular process, you need to do a make or buy decision, whether you had to make or to buy. You need to make a decision whether to keep hunting for a job or learning a skill. At the end of this video, you should be able to start something immediately. But like I said, it's not, don't be excited. For instance, if you are to sign a deal, don't be excited by the figures. It's important that you think through the figures to know exactly what the integrity and the character of those figures are. Most importantly, what is the motive of the person that is making you an offer. So today, let's look at thinking through. Most of the time, many people say that for you to break through, you need to think through. Let me give you a simple analogy, but I know highly successful people think through. They do not just take decisions, rash decisions. Rash decisions simply means taking decision by impulse. It doesn't mean that you're smart. Rather, it's rather a measure of what expression of ignorance. That's the way I look at it when you make decisions rashly. Decision making is one of the critical elements of success because embedded in every decision is the effect of immediacy and the effect of consequence. That is, you have the immediacy effect and then you have the consequent effect. But the value of your thinking through is in what you value in the end. Now, let me give you a simple analogy. 3 basic steps are actually required if you are to think through. Number 1 is to what? To establish and understand your position and then know the motive and mind of the position. And secondly is to think with the end in mind. And then thirdly is to critically analyze the immediacy effect. Too many people are carried away by what they are going to get now, but not thinking of what they will have to pay later. And this is the reason why gamblers will never become rich. Anyone that is in gambling will never become rich. The psychology behind it is what? The immediate reward. The short-term immediate reward. Short-term thinkers will always experience a shortfall. So, there was this story I read in the one of the classic book. I think it is CEO, the Fables, the CEO and the Fables, or something like that. I can't really remember the name of that book now. In one of the stories there was the story of 2 animals that were stalked by a predator, and every time they heard the predator coming closer, a conversation will normally ensue between the 2 animals involved. Animal A will say, I have several ways of escaping in the event that the predator shows up, and the other animal simply says, I have just one way of escape. Right now, what happened is that while the one that has several ways of escape kept contemplating on which of the ways to actually execute his escape, the one that had only one medium of escape was already escaped while the other was contemplating. The one that was contemplating became the prey. So what is it that you have been contemplating? Analysis can be paralysis, but that doesn't mean you should not analyze. And that's why, as an accounting background person, I love one of the topic I love most in accounting is ratio analysis. We try to look at the figures and look at the value of the figures. Some figures appear very bogus, but what is behind them is actually very empty. They are blank, but they look bogus. But there are many people that don't look bogus, but they are actually what? Blossoming what? Figures. They are very small, but they mean so much. So in making decision or thinking through any activity you need to do, if you have to blueprint whatever it is that you need to do, check what is my volatility, what is the span of my influence. The span of influence is what determines whether you have actually thought through. What am I paying now? What would I have to pay later? It's one reason why people sell their vote. They sell their vote to take care of what? An hunger, temporal hunger, but they become in perpetual and permanent slavery when you sell your vote for money. Do you understand? So these are things that happen during thinking through. Now, another classical example could be, look at it this way. The two thieves that were crucified alongside Jesus Christ. One thought through. He thought with the end in mind, right? And decided to do what? Solicit for an assistance. And he ended up in what? In everlasting celebration. While the other one that was short-term thinking, his mind was blinded. Short-term thinkers have what? Short fuse. They do not critically analyze what the worth of their immediate response will look like. It's good to have quick win, but you must be smart enough to be able to analyze what your short-term gains are compared to your long-term frustration. So your long-term goal must be clear and vivid enough to command a system or a process that will ensure that you make progress rather than what? Getting short-term gain and what? Losing in the far end. And that's why when you're making an investment, they say, what is the repayment period? You think of what? The security of your capital first, and then you think of what? The ability, the capacity of that investment beyond the security of your capital to consistently pay you the return that it promised. So, but the first thing to think about is the security of your capital, and that's why bank takes collateral. So you see it now. What is the collateral of the present activity that you're doing? What's the collateral behind your idleness? What's the collateral behind your waiting? Don't think that the fact that you are not celebrated now, or you are in a growth phase or in a growing process, doesn't mean that you are not making any form of what? Progress. You see, process determines progress. So we've got to know this. So these are all part of what? Thinking through. Business breakthrough begins from business thinking, and business thinking has to do with what? Thinking through, looking at the figures critically and looking at the character of the people behind the figures, the potency of the process, and looking at what? The value of the end effect. So sometimes you need to make decisions fast. So you don't be like the modern day poor wise man whose analysis stopped him from taking the action he was supposed to take. And don't also be like the modern day rich fool whose image stopped him from asking critical questions and jumped into what made him a fool with his riches. So I don't know what you have learned from this video. I'd like you to share. Don't forget, just be clear about what you want to achieve, understand your position, and know what the motive of the opposition is. Begin with the end in mind. That's why the 7 habits of highly effective people has one of its habits as what? Beginning with the end in mind. So what is the end that you have in mind? Think about this and let me know in your comments. God bless you.